So you just go and you say to Rick,
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to call the Historic Preservation Commission
All right, good.
order.
Please do.
City staff, please call roll.
Chairman Powers,
Here.
Commissioner Doherty, Commissioner Kraus,
Here.
Commissioner Maloof,
here.
Commissioner Matuzak. Here. Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Stotts.
Thank you. We do have a quorum, and we do have a new commission member, Commissioner Stotts, who's unable to attend today. And then we, just for a note, we do have a new city urban planner that's been assigned to the Historic Preservation Commission. Her name is Carolyn Gallagher, and we welcome her to the commission today. Thank you. And we're going to move on for the approval of the June 27, 2018 minutes. Commissioners?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Matuzak. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. There's a second by Commissioner Kraus. Any further discussion? In favor say aye. Opposed say nay. Thank you. Okay. We're going to go to our first item of business. It's case number HPC 18-14. And before we do begin that, our format for public hearings is relatively simple. The chair will call the case, city staff will then present what information that they have. A packet's already been provided to the commissioners, and then we'll begin the public hearing portion with the petitioner or the petitioner's representative, and they're welcome to speak as they like pertaining to their case. And the commissioners may have questions at the time that they provide testimony and present any additional information that they have. And then we'll allow the rest of the public to speak. The petitioner or the petitioner's representative is entitled to have a final rebuttal at the conclusion of our public hearing portion, and then the commission will conduct what's called a findings of fact after the public hearing portion's closed. And that's basically just in relationship to our ordinance to make sure that we've reviewed different aspects of it. And then we'll make a motion on the well, generally we have a motion made and then we'll do the findings of fact. So, with that being said, city staff, 18-14.
Thank you. This is case number 18-14. It's a public hearing on the request of Jim Johnson to obtain a certificate of appropriateness for the placement of chimney caps for the property located at 802 Northeast Perry Avenue, parcel identification number 1804438003. Standard mailed notification was provided to surrounding property owners within 250 radial feet of the subject property within the required 15-day prior to review. The project summary is the petitioners requesting a certificate of appropriateness to allow for the placement of chimney caps. The property is located in the Peoria Avenue Historic District. The applicant has contracted with Roker Masonry to install chimney caps and provide tuck pointing. The applicant proposes to add 2 terracotta clay chimney caps. The applicant intends to complete approximately $220,000 of renovation to the dwelling. Except for the placement of the chimney caps, the remainder of the scope of work does not require a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Commission. And you can find more details in your packet of information. When you are reviewing this request, of course, you should consider Section 16-64 to determine if the proposed work is compatible and appropriate.
Commissioners, any questions for city staff? Being none, we'll open up the public hearing portion with the petitioner or the petitioner's representative. They're welcome to come forward and speak their name for the record and make any comments that they would like. If anybody would like to come forward, they're welcome to. If you could speak your name for the record.
Ms. Swearman,
My apologies. Could you be sworn in?
do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Jim Johnson, and thanks for taking a few minutes to consider our case. We've recently bought the, I've recently bought the Flavel Shirtlift House And we're planning on making some fairly substantial renovations to the mechanical portions of the house, the kitchen, the bathroom, and so forth. The really cool features of the interior of the house are intact. It's an amazing house. I would invite any of you to come and look at it. It does need renovation, though, so that someone would want to live in it. The bathroom is not usable. The kitchen is not usable. It also needs a new heating system. So those are the big dollar things. We are not planning on any change to the exterior of the house. It will be repainted in the same color scheme by professional painters. The tuck pointing, as Leah mentioned, is in very bad shape, so we have Roker coming out to do tuck pointing in various spots around the house. And on the chimney, which I think there's a picture in your package where you can see gaps through the bricks in the chimney. The chimney is also not high enough. That is an active chimney that vents the furnace, the boiler in the house. So we want to raise the profile of the chimney once it's repaired, and we propose to do that by putting in some of these terracotta caps. I've done a lot of research, talked to the masons. We think that's the appropriate repair for the period of this house, 1896 on this Queen Anne. I do have other examples of those caps that are used in the city, and would welcome any input that the commission has. Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the petitioner? Thank you. No questions, it appears. Thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Second and final call, anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Being none, seeing none, commissioners, we're at the point of deliberations. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Move to approve by Commissioner Smith,
I second.
seconded by Commissioner Maloof. Any further discussion? Okay, being none, we'll conduct our findings of fact. Item number 1, every reasonable effort shall be made to provide a compatible use for property that requires minimal alteration of building structure or site and its environment, or to use property for its originally intended purpose.
Yes.
Item number 2, the distinguishing original qualities or character of building structure or site and its environment shall not be destroyed. The removal of alteration of any historical material or distinctive architectural feature should be avoided when possible.
Yes.
Item number 3, all building structures and sites shall be recognized as products of their own time. Alterations that have no historical basis and that seek to create an earlier appearance shall be discouraged.
Yes.
Item number 4, changes that may have taken place over the course of time are evidence of the history and development of a building structure or site and its environment. These changes may have acquired significance in their own right, and this significance shall be recognized and respected.
Yes.
Item number 5, distinctive stylistic features or examples of skilled craftsmanship that characterize a building structure or site shall be treated with sensitivity.
Yes.
Yes.
Item number 6, deteriorated architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. In the event that a replacement is necessary, the new material should match that material being replaced in composition, design, color, texture, and other visual qualities. Repair or replacement of missing architectural features should be based on accurate duplications of features substantiated by historical, physical, or pictorial evidence rather than conjectural design or availability of different architectural elements from other buildings or structures.
Yes.
Item number 7, the surface cleaning of structures shall be undertaken in the gentlest means possible. Sandblasting and other cleaning methods that will change the historic building materials shall not be undertaken.
Yes.
Item number 8, every reasonable effort shall be made to protect and preserve archaeological resources affected by or adjacent to any project.
Yes.
Item number 9, contemporary design or alterations and additions to the existing property shall not be discouraged when such alterations and additions do not destroy significant historical, architectural, or cultural material, and such design is compatible with the size, scale, color, materials, or character of the property, neighborhood, or environment.
Yes.
Item number 10, whenever possible, new additions or alterations shall be done in such a manner that if such alterations or additions were to be removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the structure would be unimpaired.
Yes.
Yes.
Item number 11, which contains several subcomponents. The proposed work conforms to the following design criteria as well as any specific guidelines. A, the height. The height of the proposed structure and additions or alterations should be compatible with surrounding structures.
Yes.
Item B, proportions of the structure's front facade. The proportion between the width and the height of the proposed structure should be compatible with nearby structures.
Yes.
Item C, the proportions of the openings of the facility. The proportions of relationships between doors and windows should be compatible with the existing structures.
Yes.
Yes.
Relationships of building masses and space of the relationship or structure to be open space between the adjoining structures should be compatible.
Yes.
Roof shapes. The design of the roof should be compatible with adjoining structures.
NA.
NA.
Landscape and appurtenances. Landscape and the use of appurtenances should be sensitive to individual structures, its occupants, or their needs. Further, the landscape treatment should be compatible with surrounding structures and landscapes.
NA.
NA.
Item G, scale of structure. The scale of structure should be compatible with surrounding structures.
Yes.
H, directional expression from elevations. Street facade should be blend with other structures with regard to additional expression. When adjacent structures have a dominant horizontal or vertical expression, this should be carried over and reflected.
NA.
NA.
And item I, architectural details. Architectural details and materials should be incorporated as necessary to relate the new and the old and preserve and enhance the inherent characteristics of that area.
Yes.
City staff, please call roll.
Commissioner Kraus?
Yes.
Commissioner Maloof?
Yes.
Commissioner Matuzak? Yes. Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Powers?
Great, fantastic. Your certificate of appropriateness will be mailed to you by city staff. If you need any additional help or assistance, feel free to contact city staff. And our commission would like to thank you for your investment and taking the opportunity to live in a historic district. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number HPC 18-15, city staff.
This is a public hearing on the request of the City of Peoria to obtain a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition, removal of the front porch for the property located at 1517 West Barker Avenue, which is a parcel identification number of 1808124014. We have provided the mailed notification to surrounding property owners within 250 radial feet within a 15-day prior review. The City of Peoria is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of an unsafe two-story covered porch. The property is a local historic landmark since 2010. The front porch has been deemed unsafe pursuant to Article 9, which is unsafe or dangerous buildings in Chapter 5 of the City Code. Our Code Enforcement Division finds the porch is likely to collapse and thereby injure persons or damage property. The construction materials are noticeably decaying and deteriorating, causing unsafe conditions. The City of Peoria will be pursuing a court order for demolition. The objective is to keep the brickwork that is in safe condition and just remove all unsafe materials. The principal building would remain. And Commissioners, we do have Mr. Scott Wolf, who is our building inspector. If you have any specific questions related to the porch and its condition, we can answer those as well. And anything else we can provide.
Okay.
We did, just one more thing, sorry, we did make attempts to, our legal department made attempts to contact the bank, which is actually in ownership of the property, I believe through a foreclosure process, and we did not receive a response.
Okay. City staff, just for clarification, who is the applicant for this?
It is the City of Peoria as the
City of Peoria, okay. Any questions for city staff at this point? We may have Mr. Wolf maybe testify a little bit during the public hearing portion. Okay. And any additional information from the petitioner, you're welcome. If you'd like to have Mr. Wolf testify on behalf of the petitioner or wait till the public hearing portion, it's up to you. It's up to you.
Whatever you would prefer, if,
Okay, we'll open it up to the public. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Second call, anybody from the public wishing to speak on this matter? Okay. Commissioners, while we do have the public hearing portion, I do have a few questions for Inspector Wolf, since he is available and accessible. Mr. Wolf, you can pick any microphone. You can stay there if you want. You're fine.
sit right here, and we'll turn this one on. Mr. Powers will turn it on. There you go. It's on.
Okay.
Thank you for coming, Inspector Wolf. Does city staff, Inspector Wolf need to be sworn in? If you could stand just to be sworn in, she'll swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Inspector Wolf, what type of condition is the foundation in? Because I think the application focuses on, looks like a double front porch, a two-story front porch. And could you maybe provide the commission an overall view of your perspective?
Sure. The masonry portion of the porch doesn't seem to be in that bad a condition. Typically on these older homes like this, some of those, the masonry, from settling over the years and things like that, it can, kind of, get out of plumb a little bit. Typically, you can kind of see that, happening with these particular structures. I don't see much evidence of that on this, so I'm assuming that, with the demolition, that the lower portion, the masonry can be, remain in place. That's our hope, that if we, remove the unsafe portion of it, we can, leave that masonry in place there.
The unsafe portion meaning the columns, the first floor roof, ceiling, the second floor porch, correct?
Correct. If you can maybe go back to some of the other pictures there, the close-up, there's just a lot of water damage that's occurred over the years. And you can see some temporary shoring that has been in place in the first roof, and then also on the upper portion as well.
Any other questions for city staff? Inspector Wolf, please.
So Inspector Wolf, as I understand, the intent is to remove the entire wooden structures there and to leave the masonry corners and foundation in its place?
Our intent is to remove all unsafe portions of the structure. So, in answer to the question, that would be my understanding of, I mean, you know, they call it demolition for a reason. You know, it's just to try to deconstruct something and save portions of it would be extremely difficult to do, so.
Was this porch and balcony part of the original construction, or was it added sometime after?
I believe it's original to the home.
Original to the home.
Appears to me.
Any other questions, Commissioners?
Yeah, as the porch comes off, what's remaining, is it it's gonna be weatherproofed or sealed to prevent,
Yeah, I mean, part of the issue with this porch is it was constructed with, vertical grain fir flooring, which is typically, of that period, was on covered porches, not exposed to the weather, 100% exposed to the weather. Certainly, there is some exposure there. I am unsure of the condition of that floor underneath the flooring, but with the removal of the porch, that could be an issue down the road for the building. It may need to be reconstructed as well. again, with the demolition, not sure how far, you know, when that stuff comes down there, if the porch floor would be affected by the demolition or not. It very well could be.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Thank you for coming. Your information's been most helpful. And, final call, anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Final call. Okay. Commissioners, we're at the point of deliberations. Commissioners?
I have a question. Would you clarify for me who picks up this tab for this and the responsibilities of the homeowner?
Well, this is a City of Peoria application for enforcement, so obviously the city would be interjecting a contractor at their expense, and ultimately this would be a lien on the home that would ultimately have to be satisfied at the point of sale or sooner. Is that correct, city staff?
That is my...
Question with that. That's what I wanted to know about the lien.
Okay, thank you.
In taking that structure away from the building, it has served the purpose to a point of deferring some water. And if the city intends to rehabilitate that house, I'm wondering, is that going to cause water damage to the structure below that part? Because now, then everything will flow to that wall. And so I don't think you can just take it off. I think there has to be something that goes maybe a step further to prevent deterioration from where it's been removed. As you've pointed out, in the ceiling, water is its enemy, and the same things could be true of that basement wall as well. Now, I have not seen the diagram of below the surface, but I'm just posing that question.
Okay. Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, I agree with Michael's assessment of that. That was kind of what was behind my question about, you know, what's left, how would that be weatherproof? Because once that top portion comes on, the whole area of the foundation and everything's going to be exposed underneath it. And it just seems like, I mean, I don't know what the actual end game is for the house as far as future ownership or whatever, but it seems that, at least in the area of the demolition, we'd want to make sure it was sealed and protected from what then is going to be full exposure. The front of the house, the door, the windows. So I don't think it's as easy as just saying, well, we're going to take the porch off.
Okay. Any other comments, Commissioners?
Well, I wondered that too. I mean, the porch kind of is intrinsic in the historical value of the house. So if there's no, you know, if it's just going to be demolished, the porch part is just going to be demolished with no reconstruction attached to it, I think the house itself loses a lot of its historic value. And probably that homeowner value also with the leaking and things like that. I'm familiar with this house. My daughter lives around the corner, and it is unsafe. You know, that's no there's no question there. But it seems like there should be some kind of reconstruction of the porch.
Okay, any other comments, Commissioners? If I may, I find this very difficult because we have a decaying historical home and we have taxpayer dollars. And we're trying to protect any safety issues that may be arising. There is a potential risk here. I don't discount what city staff has said at all. The home, obviously, the city has brought forth an application, which I applaud them for doing, demolition on any type of scale. And I'd like to see, even if it's an entire home, applications come forward like this. It helps protect the city for better documentation and allows for more transparency. And it also gives the neighborhood input before something is done. And obviously, the homeowners in the surrounding area were notified, and it's unfortunate that none are here today. None. With that being said, I think, obviously, the city said the entire home doesn't need to be demolished. They just want to take care of the front porch. They may need to apply something like a T11 board to any exposed, any type of exposure that's underneath that brick or where that front porch is at in order to keep water from getting in and further damaging the main building. I'm not sure. They're going to need some flexibility here. I don't see that we can logically allow this to continue to stay like this. I think that the foundation should be preserved if at all possible, as well as the brick pillars. They may get damaged during the demolition process, and things may happen. But it would be nice if the railings, the balusters, the columns were preserved on site for future use. There is a structural issue, there is a safety issue here, and I think we need to allow some flexibility here. It's a hardship, obviously, for the city to have to bring it forward. The homeowner obviously has not. And there could always be a contingency added to a motion that the subject matter must be reconstructed within 24 months, or an application must come forward prior to maybe, and maybe perhaps we can impose that as a part of the sale of, the home. I don't know if we can do that, city staff, where there's a contingency on it, where, so it helps the buyer beware what the expectation level will be. I think that will be very important for any potential homeowner. I wouldn't want to see somebody come in and say, oh, I'm just going to finish taking it down and just do this and that. I think we need to be more involved during this process and maybe add some teeth to whatever's approved. So just my points of consideration, Commissioners.
Yeah, I agree, in terms of the immediate taking of the porch off. I don't know if, I haven't been to the property, but I don't know if, in the assessment of actually taking it off, we were to go and take a closer look and see what the condition of the foundation is along that front wall, because it will be exposed. And I don't know, it'd be a great case if we had mothballing standards, and we could just say, well, we're going to mothball the rest of the house and seal it up. But, how long has it been vacant? Do we know?
I don't think we know, other than it is currently vacant, so. And, the mothballing ordinance was strictly a voluntary process, not an imposed process under the ordinance. And then, I don't know if it's a possibility just to require fencing to be put around it, but with that small of a front yard, that could probably fall out into the public right away, depending on how it would fall. It's just so unknown, and that's what we have city staff for, is they're telling us it's a danger and it needs to be demolished.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. It is a clear and present safety hazard as it exists right now, and the liability, now that we know it, if a child were to climb up or somebody in the neighborhood, the responsibility would clearly, now that this has been identified, there has to be some action. And the action I think that I would feel most comfortable with is, yes, get it taken down. Yes, there is some responsibility. You can't just take it away without providing some protection to from what you've removed, and that is that wall, that particular wall and that basement area.
Yes.
So I don't know about the stipulation as well, but certainly it is imminent.
deliberations, Commissioners? Is there a motion?
So moved.
The motion, what is the motion?
The motion is to approve.
With the stipulation that some effort be taken to protect that foundation wall. I would also hope, I don't think it needs to be in the motion, but I would also hope that they try to save the columns.
Right.
You know, maybe even if you need, if storage is a problem, store them in the house.
So then it, Mr. Chairman, is the motion with the stipulation, is that what I understand?
As Commissioner Matuzak has stated, it's a motion with stipulation that something is used to protect the wall. And that's the foundation, correct? And is there anything formally about the columns and balusters? Or not?
Can we do that? I think then I would like to add that into the motion, and by the columns, I mean the pillars, not the
Right.
brick columns. To me, those brick columns look like maybe some of those bricks have been replaced and might not be the original anyways, but those, columns should be saved, if at all possible. We're dealing with taxpayer dollars. If it's going to triple the bill to save the columns, we have a responsibility to the taxpayers to be responsible with their money.
Okay. We would have to open up the public hearing portion again. We're actually at the point of...
To that point, we've received some criticism, the city's received some criticism in the past for tearing things down without giving someone an opportunity to go in and salvage some of it at a price, or at least just to salvage, and that is historic preservation. So in terms of in terms of the columns, the Commissioner is correct. Don't just throw those away without at least recognizing that they may have historic and market value. And I don't know how to write that, but I think that's what the Commissioner is saying.
do we have a second on this motion before we have any additional discussion?
Second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Kraus. Okay, any further discussion, Commissioners?
I guess my thought would be as demolition goes forward, you know, as you take something down, you discover all kinds of things underneath it. And I would just want to make sure that as that demolition occurs, there's a real assessment of what's going to be left. And I don't know that that's going to run into additional expense. It just seems like it's kind of a finding effect on what's remaining. As far as preserving the columns in terms of their form and their scale, those types of products are easily findable in terms of going forward if they were to want. I think the columns themselves are going to be in pretty rough shape once they get taken down. I don't know it's going to make sense to worry that much about storing them. My biggest concern is that as the rest of that material comes off, some time and some care be taken to look at how it would need to be. I guess if that could be a condition on the motion, I don't know that we can do that, but now that it's been seconded, but it just seems like the prudent thing to do in going forward if we expect in any way for the remainder of the house to be usable.
Commissioners, deliberation? I think, Commissioner Matuzak's motion is sufficient. It's just, try and save the foundation, keep the columns and pillars on site. The pillars, most likely, they could be damaged. Most likely, they could have some wood infestation. They could have water damage. They can have various things that may not be usable next time around. But that gives the next homeowner, at least so they see the pictorial idea of what was there. And Yeah, there are an abundance of materials out there to pretty much replicate what was there. It may not be exact, but as we've learned, historical homes they become better over time, and they have their own significance in their own right. This is a situation where an entire section is just going to be taken away, so it won't improve, but if you leave some architectural pieces that were there, that'll give the next person or the bank or whoever owns the home a better idea of maybe continue with the same. It, gives them an option. It doesn't mean that they're required to reuse the pillars or the balusters or the rails. It just means to keep them on site, I think. Is that the interpretation?
Yes, I wouldn't expect someone to save a rotten column or a rotten, anything that's rotten that isn't salvageable.
Mhm. And I'm sure the city will probably take the necessary approach to put fencing or whatever they need to do around the porch to keep people from going in and falling in and things like that. I think the city will do whatever's necessary to protect the public. Call the vote.
Is there a timetable?
12 months is our certificate of appropriateness period, and so the city could take up to 12 months to perform this demolition. There'll be no requirement under this motion that it must be rebuilt.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a date that would be imminent, that they would begin the process. Our 12-month...
12-month would be effective from the date that the commission approves
Okay.
the certificate of appropriateness. Any other deliberations, commissioners? And let's perform our findings of fact. And just so we know, the motion is to approve and to prepare and for the applicant to save the wall and foundation, keep the columns, pillars on the site, hopefully that they can be saved. Item number 1, every reasonable effort shall be made to provide a compatible use for a property that requires minimal alteration of the building structure or site and its environment, or to use property for its originally intended purpose.
I think that would be a no.
I concur. Item number 2, distinguishing original qualities or character of a building or structure or site and its environment shall not be destroyed. The removal or alteration of any historical material or distinctive architectural feature should be avoided when possible.
No and a yes.
Yeah.
Item number 3, all building structures and sites shall be recognized as products of their own time. Alterations that have no historical basis and that seek to create an earlier appearance shall be discouraged.
No.
No. Item number 4, changes that may have taken place in the course of evidence of history and development of building structure, site, and its environment. These changes may be acquired significance in their own right, and the significance shall be recognized and respected.
Yes.
Everyone with yes.
Okay. Item number 5, distinctive stylistic features or examples of skilled craftsmanship that characterize a building structure site shall be treated with sensitivity.
Yes.
Yes.
Item number 6, deteriorated architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced whenever possible. In the event that replacement is necessary, the new materials should match material being replaced, composition, design, color, texture, and other visual qualities. Repair or replacement of missing architectural features should be based on accurate duplications of features substantiated by historical, physical, or pictorial evidence rather than conjectural design or availability of different architectural elements from other buildings or structures.
No.
Item number 7, surface cleaning structures shall be undertaken in gentlest means possible. Sandblasting and other cleaning methods will damage the historic building materials, not be undertaken.
N.A.
Item 8, every reasonable effort shall be made to protect and preserve archaeological resources affected by or adjacent to any project.
NA.
Yes, and an NA. Contemporary design for alterations and additions to existing properties shall not be discouraged when such alterations and additions do not destroy significant historical, architectural, or cultural material, and such design is compatible with the size, scale, color, materials, and character of the property, neighborhood, or environment.
N.A.
Item 10, whenever possible, new additions or alterations shall be done in such a manner that such alterations or additions were to be removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the structure would be unimpaired.
Oh.
Okay. Item 11, the proposed work conforms to the following design criteria as well as any specific guidelines. Height, the height of the proposed structure or additions or alterations should be compatible with surrounding structures.
And
Nay.
B, proportional structures, front facade, the proportion between the width and the height of the proposed structure should be compatible with nearby structures.
Nay.
Proportions, openings, and facility proportions, relationships between doors and windows should be compatible with existing structures.
Nay.
Relationship of building masses and space, the relationship of a structure to the opening space between an adjoining structure should be compatible. Roof shapes, design of the roof should be compatible with adjoining structures.
Nay.
Landscape and appurtenances, landscape and the use of appurtenances should be sensitive to individual structures, its occupants, or their needs. Further, landscape treatment should be compatible with surrounding structures and landscapes.
Nay.
Scale of structures, scale of structures should be compatible with surrounding structures. Directional expression from elevation, street facade should blend with other structures regarding directional expression. When adjacent structures have a dominant horizontal or vertical expression, this should be carried over and reflected. Architectural details and materials should be incorporated as necessary to relate the new and the old and preserve and enhance the inherent characteristics of that area.
Nay.
City staff, please call roll.
Commissioner Kraus?
Yes.
Commissioner Maloof?
Yes.
Commissioner Matuzak?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
yes.
Chairman Powers?
Your certificate of appropriateness has been approved. It'll be valid for up to 12 months, and if you need any additional questions, obviously contact city staff. Thank you. Of course, it's city staff that applies for it. Citizens' opportunity to address the commission. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak to the commission today? Anybody from the public, including commissioners? Any public comments? Seeing none, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Matuzak, second by
I agree.
Commissioner Maloof. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed say nay. Thank you for attending, everybody.
Mandy.